welcome to the BizBlend podcast, listeners, where business meets bold ideas. I am your host, Sana, and today we are diving into the real nuts and bolts of team success with healthcare executive and leadership strategist Cory Geffre, someone who has spent decades helping leaders build high performing teams that actually get the results. So, with that, Corey, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm really excited to be here today.
Absolutely. Okay, Corey, you talk a lot about developing people instead of just simply managing them. What exactly do you mean by it? I mean, how does it look like in today's fast-paced environment? Where the output, the results, they're everything.
Yeah, I'm someone who loves to move very, very quickly. And so it was difficult for me when I first realized that not everyone wants to or can move at the same pace as me. And so I actually found that we were able to get more done when I slowed down and really looked at each one of the individual people to determine, what are their talents, what are their skill sets, what are their needs, what are their shortcomings, in really spending time with each one of them to identify their own development plan. Now, this isn't hours and hours of analysis. This can be accomplished in just short, 30-minute meetings once a month to really dive deep into the psyche of each of the people that you're leading to figure out what that path is to help them become the best version of themselves. And that's the key for them to become the best version of themselves.
Hmm. So it definitely came from a huge, big mindset shift within you, Corey.
Yeah, you know, I always struggled to you know to s- to see people individually. I'm always so focused on the big picture. And
Mm.
so I really got good at this, by basically making a bunch of mistakes, realizing that the people that were coming to work for me would leave, after a short time, and at first I thought it was them, but then I ultimately realized that there was one common problem, and that was me, so I did need to make that big mindset shift.
That's huge. That's huge, Corey. And that's really, really commendable because great leaders, good leaders, they always accept if generally they think that yes, maybe I'm the problem, and they work on themselves as well as that itself reflects on the team members as well. So thank you for that. But still, I mean, Corey, there are managers or leaders, although the output is there, but they simply follow the philosophy, just get it done, and that's it. That is more than enough. Nothing else matters to me. I just, I am solely focused on the output.
Yeah, that's not uncommon, Santa, and one of the reasons I kind of developed a real simple framework, which was go through really, really quickly. It's not super complex, but developing people, managing performance, building teams, and all three of those are focused around the same thing, people. And then the last two parts of the framework, which are improving operations and achieving results, are the output. And just like you said, most managers are so focused on the output. But the reason that the first three pieces of the framework are about people is because people create output. Output doesn't happen on its own. And so output doesn't happen without input. And in this case, the input is all about focusing on the people. So if you need to get results, if that's what you're held accountable to, and as managers and leaders and business owners, that's what we are held accountable to, you actually have to pour your effort into the people. And that's a difficult shift, for individuals to make, especially when you've just been results driven your entire life or entire career.
Hmm. That really makes sense. And how do you balance high expectations with team well-being? Because you are in the industry like healthcare, and
Yep.
burnout is rising in it's highly stressful industry. How do you balance both of these things?
Yeah, that's a transition, and I would say even a little bit of a process on the type of people that you're recruiting. Um,
Mhm.
One of the things that I think that we kind of underestimate in business is people generally like to win. Whether they're
Yeah.
cheering for a politics, whether they're cheering for their sports team, people like to win, and most people know that winning takes work and effort and sacrifice. And so
Mhm.
you have to find a way to tap in to the competitive spirit that lives inside of each of the employees. And, if you were a large sports fan, people are in better moods when their team's winning rather than when their team's losing. And so I think that discovering that everybody has a little bit of a competitive drive. Now, this doesn't mean, you know, overworking them and underappreciating them. This really means tapping into their competitive spirit to get them to give you a little bit more effort than they were giving before because they
Mhm.
can see the goal or the prize or they can understand what the victory is all about here. And so people like winning a little bit more than we talk about in business.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. That I completely agree. I completely agree. And Corey, since we have touched a bit on the solution side, let's talk about the current scenario. Because you have worked with everyone from frontline teams to C-suite executives. What's the common mistakes or mistake you see leaders make when they are trying to create engagement?
Yeah, I think I I still think that the key aspect of a leader is to see, identify, and deal with your own shortcomings.
Okay.
If your motivations are, not pure, I should say, but having not just self-awareness, not knowing what your own weaknesses are, but having painful levels of self-awareness to know why you feel a certain way when somebody says something, or that you react a certain way when somebody does something. I think having just complete connection, to your own emotions is the first step, and it's that authenticity of really
Mhm.
understanding your own shortcomings. People are generally attracted to authenticity. People who they are just like, this is a real person. They're not a perfect person. They're not trying to be something that they aren't, but
Yeah.
this is just an authentic person. I think that is the first step to engagement is when people look up or look to somebody and they see an authentic person standing in front of them, just trying to become the best version of themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's say if someone has already kind of lost their team's trust, or maybe um the team is not exactly connecting with them. I mean, can it be reversed, or it's like game over? Then definitely a change of leadership is needed there.
Yeah, I've seen scenarios where leaders have recovered, and that recovery came from them just standing in front of the team, admitting their shortcomings, admitting their failures, asking for another chance, and as we talk about with computers sometimes, just shutting it all the way down and completely rebooting. And the team has to agree to do that. The individual has to agree to do that, but once you lose a team, it takes extraordinary effort and skills to be able to bring that team back together. In most cases, either the leader needs to change or the team has to change, but
Mhm.
super humble leaders can turn it around, but it's a tall ask. And whoever their leaders are need to be sure that they're giving them extra time because those things don't happen in days and weeks. They happen in months and years when you're trying to rebuild trust with a team.
That is true. That is true. It doesn't happen overnight. That's a really really important point. Really important point. And do you have any success story or example which you would like to share with us?
Yeah. Yes, I think of one. As a matter of fact, with that last question, I just had a picture of somebody in my mind who had been a long-standing leader, was a frontline staff, and it got promoted up, got demoted a couple of times and re-promoted. Was just somebody who was really on the fringe of leadership. This was the type of person that would come in the morning and see garbage next to the garbage can, and then kick the garbage can across the room, and just wasn't a great person in the eyes of their leader and in the eyes of their team. And so I was ultimately responsible for this decision. I met with them and just said that I thought that we needed to move in another direction. They asked me what they needed to do to turn this around. I didn't think that they would be able to, but we actually got them some external coaching. They talked me into investing in some external coaching for them where they did a complete 360 analysis and all the employees were able to share. And that's why I talk about this being a very unique situation. This person actually saw and heard what the team said. I always say that they saw the reflection in the mirror. Our job as leaders is to hold the mirror up. It's the leader's responsibility to actually see their reflection. And she saw her reflection in the mirror and started to rebuild the team and went from the worst engagement scores in the entire organization to second best in 18 months. And she gets all of the credit for that, for asking for help and making the change. And it's that story that always gives me hope when we get in these tough situations, that I've seen a path forward before. And so I'm hopeful that it can happen again.
Absolutely. 18 months. Wow. This is really, really such a positive story. It definitely, I think it definitely gives hope to our listeners, especially those who are managing their teams or they're yet to do that, but they're really, really, uh, you know, uh, they really wish to do that because sometimes, uh, when we are transitioning from an individual contributor to a people manager, we often think that, okay, this is more of an authority position, then I need to kind of exhibit those kind of characteristics to be more authoritative and to look strong, bold, and powerful for others. Yeah.
That's great. I really like that. This is kind of you're just opening up new thought pathways for me, Santa. I just really appreciate this. That it is dangerous to be a leader who mimics other leaders, and it goes back to something we talked about a few minutes later. Just be yourself as a leader, as opposed to mimicking someone else, and that is dangerous because you don't know all the pieces of the puzzle that make them who they are, so your mimic is not going to be accurate and might fall short. But you made such great points there that it really just kind of stimulating my thought process around how many leaders actually are mimicking someone else poorly and not being their own version of themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay. And Corey, talking about today's context, I mean, we have seen so many kind of trends in terms of employment, especially during I mean post COVID, quite quitting, quite firing, disengagement, this transition from remote to RTO. Uh, I mean, do you think this is a generational shift, or uh, is it just the way it's normal? I mean, this had to happen.
Yeah, I think that COVID accelerated the, inevitable. I don't think it created anything new. I think that there's a lot of things that we want to blame on COVID or point to COVID. I think it accelerated the inevitable. We had already kind of made the move from the industrial age into the technology age, and now there's another transformation happening. And I don't think it quite yet has a name, but it really is allowing the worker centric, more worker centric, as opposed to more company or business or industry centric. And it's a transition that's going to take leaders being nimble. It's a transition that's gonna take leaders being willing to try things that don't work out. The fear of failure, I think holds us back is that we think that we're just one strike away, from getting fired or from losing our company or losing our job. In reality, all great things have come through a series of, small failures or small mistakes, and so I think we're gonna have to make some of those as we continue to transition to this kind of new workforce environment.
That's a very interesting insight. Very interesting insight. Great, Corey. And before we wrap up, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
Best way to get in touch with me is, I have a website. I don't have tons of stuff out there. I just love having these conversations. But it's my name, um, Cory Geffre, all one word, .com, and, there they can connect with me. That's CoryGeffre.com. I've got a little communication, box there, but I love to just have discussions, with people, and sometimes just a 5 or a 10-minute, conversation can really help, reframe what they're doing, get them off to the off to the races and off to a great start, and, help them really, build a more dynamic and engaged team. Because when we do that, everyone wins. The employees, the employer, and the customers, they all win when we get that right.
Okay. Yeah, we all want to win. As you mentioned in the first part of the conversation. We all want to. Great. I'll make sure to have all the links there in the show notes. And Corey, thank you so much for getting real about what it takes to build not just a good team, but a resilient one. Thank you so much. Those were really some interesting insights, some great stories. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great day.
So, listeners, if you are leading anyone, this is your sign to lead better. With this, I'll catch you next time on another interesting episode like this. This is BizBlend, and I'm Sana, your host. Thank you.